Hello, my name is Tristan, and today we're going to be taking a look at Clickteam Fusion 2.5. I'm just going to really briefly run through making a game from start to end. It'll be a simple game, but hopefully effective and fun, and maybe even a little bit instructive. So, just a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Tristan. I've been using Clickteam Fusion in one form or another for probably about the last 15 years. And it's fantastic software. I really enjoy it, and you're able to make a lot of really great content in much less time than you might think. So, with that being said, let's get started. First, I'm using the Steam version of Clickteam Fusion. I don't think I'm aware of any differences between the Steam version and the standalone version, so you should be fine. Also to note, I am using the standard edition. I am not using the free or light version, so if you see some differences, that could be a cause there. I'm also not using the developer DLC or add-in. So again, just the standard version. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this. Okay, so the first thing that you should see when you start up Clickteam Fusion for the first time is this screen right here. You should see a start panel with new application, open application, and display tutorial. So now what we're going to do, we're going to open new application and just click on that. This brings us up to the storyboard editor. Here we can edit all the basic attributes of our frame and its positioning in our game. For now, I'm going to rename this frame as Level 1. I'm going to leave all of the other default settings. Then I'm going to click on the number by the frame to take me to the frame editor. Here I can edit all of the actual aspects of my frame, such as how it looks, where objects are positioned, different colorations, things like that. Now I'm going to come down to the library toolbar on the bottom of my screen. You'll notice these little plus mark boxes by these words, and that indicates that I can expand these into other categories. I'm going to click on the box by local library to expand that. Now I'm going to click next to games to expand that. Now, going down to miscellaneous 2, I'm going to select that one time. Now in this right-hand side, you can see all the different categories that have opened up from miscellaneous 2. I'm going to double-click on Shaolin Yang. Now this brings up all of the objects that are contained within the folder of Shaolin Yang. I'm going to select my character. I'm going to choose Stopped with Sword right here. Click, hold down, drag until you see the outline of the sprite size, and release your drag. We now have our character. But as you can see from him walking side to side, hopefully, this is a platforming game. And what is a platforming game without a platform to stand on? I'm going to select Platform 2, and I'm just going to drag that up into the frame. I'm going to position my platform to make sure it's a little bit outside of the boundaries of the frame, so that way no margin bleed through occurs when somebody's playing the game at a slightly strange resolution or monitor. I'm going to now select the platform once, and then twice until these little black boxes appear around the edges. Now I'm going to mouse over until I see the left-right arrow appear, click, hold down, and just drag that across the screen. We now have a character and a platform. But if I try and play the frame with the Run Frame button, which is the empty square with the small triangle beside it, as you can see, I cannot control this character. Nothing happens. It's very exciting. Now, I'm going to close out the frame viewer. And now I'm going to select my character that has the name currently Stopped with Sword. Now, I'm going to come over here into the Properties bar. As you can see, it is populated now with the properties of Stopped with Sword. I'm going to go to the third option over, the Movement tab. Under Type of Movement, I'm going to select the Static option. This will bring up an entire menu of all of the options for movement that exist in Clickteam Fusion. I'm just going to standard non-physical movements for the time being. and I'm going to select Platform, the last option under non-physical movements. Now, there's other options that are given that we don't have to worry about right now, so we're going to go back up to this button right here, Run Frame, or you can always press F7. As you can see, our character just fell through the world, so we need to modify some further things here. Close out the frame viewer. Now, again, as I've said, what is a platform game without platforming? Well, right now, if we click on this platform, it might say platform, but it doesn't actually have the properties of a platform. As far as the game is concerned, it just exists as a background object to look pretty. So we're going to come over here to the Properties editor. As you can see, I've selected Platform 2. I'm going to go into the Runtime options, which is the white page with the red play button. Under here you can see collisions. Obstacle type is none. We're going to click none and change this into a platform. Now, if we go back up to Run Frame once again, our character still falls through. What could be the problem? We have a character with platform movement, and we have a platform that we have declared to be a platform. Well, this is where we get into Multimedia Fusion. Oh, sorry, I've used Clickteam Fusion so long that it was Multimedia Fusion first, now it's Clickteam Fusion. I'm going to refer to them pretty much interchangeably, so apologies in advance. Anyway, now we're going to go up into our toolbar up here. We're going to click on this button right here, the Event Editor. You can also press Ctrl-E. This brings up the options to describe the characteristics of interactions between objects or for certain conditions for this frame. Now we're going to click on New Condition. This will bring up the New Condition options window. We're going to select our character, stopped with sword. This will bring up the options menu. We want a collision type. We're going to select collisions. Now it comes into the differences between different kinds of objects. We have set our platform as a platform object, which is technically a type of backdropped object. So we're going to select backdrop. As you can see, Clickteam Fusion has now put this into plain English. When our character stopped with sword collides with the background, this is our if condition. If this is true, then we're going to choose an option for what is going to happen when this occurs. We're going to go under the box under stopped with sword. We're going to right-click that box. Now, under movement, we're going to say stop. Now, let's go back into our frame editor, which is this box right here, or you can press Ctrl-M. Now, let's try running this frame once more. As you can see, our character is now able to walk, albeit with some weird sliding movements, but walking nonetheless. Anyway, we are now going to close this out. So we now have a character that can walk. But in a platforming game, jumping is also a requirement. Select your character once again, click the Movement tab, and you'll see under Jump, there is Gravity, Strength, and Control. If you click on Control, there are a few options for what you can use to control the jump. By default, it is set to button 1. Button 1 is Shift. This is a perfectly fine option to stay with, but you might want to make sure that you have sticky keys turned off. But you might notice this jump is a little bit useless for what we want to do. In that case, we're going to change the strength of our jump. Strength indicates how high our character can jump or with how much force. Gravity indicates how slowly the character will fall to the ground. We're going to set our jump strength to around 64 to test. Now, we're going to run the frame once again. That's a little better, but still not quite right. Let's pull this all the way up to 73. That's a little better. Okay, now we have our character, we have our jump set, and we have our platform. However, this frame now looks a little bit bare. Let's go ahead and try and make some backgrounds. Now, first off, let's choose a hedgerow. Makes everything look nice, lush, and green. This is overlapping this platform, and I would like this to be more in the background. So I'm going to right-click it, and I am going to set the order to back. I want this to appear in the back of everything else in the frame. I'm going to expand it, as we learned earlier, right across the frame. Now, I'm going to add, a house would be nice. I'm going to use the arrow keys to make incremental changes to make sure that it's not floating above the platform, because that would look a little bit weird. Now I'm going to add in just a couple of trees, perhaps. That looks a little bit strange, so I'm going to send the tree to back. Now I'm going to add another kind of tree, and I'm going to send this to back as well in the ordering. So now we have trees, houses. This frame looks a little bit bare, so let's go ahead and change the color of the frame itself. I'm going to click on Level 1 in the Workspace toolbar to bring up the frame properties itself. Under Background Color, under Settings, I'm going to click the white square by RGB value, and I'm going to choose a color that seems best suited to perhaps a dark-ish night. That looks fine for now. Okay, so now, as you can see if we run the frame, we have something that looks a little bit more like a game at this point. However, there is still no actual goal. So for that, let's go ahead and add something for our character to grab. Let's add a yin-yang. Now, there's no way for this character to get up to this item. In this case, we're going to set some boxes for our character to jump up on. You might notice I'm alternating between pulling new objects from this bar below into this bar on the side. These are the objects that currently exist in the frame. These are the objects that are in the global library. So, now that I have created a nice little step up for our character, I'm going to try and run this frame. Oh, can you see the problem? We didn't set a collision type. So, I'm going to select either each of these boxes individually, or I'm going to select all of these boxes together. I'm going to go back into my runtime options, and I'm going to set the obstacle type to platform. Now, we have already set in our event editor, we've set the condition for our character colliding with any kind of backdrop that has an obstacle type set. So we don't need to make more events for our new background objects that we've created with our box 2 object. We're going to go back into the frame editor, and we're going to try to run this. And our character can stand on the box. He still falls through the house, however, so we'll have to set that obstacle type as well. You'll notice that our character is able to jump through the box and stand on top, which is a characteristic of the platform setting, which is why it's commonly used for platform games. Now we're going to select the house. We're going to go to the runtime options and set the obstacle type to platform. So now, when we play our frame, we should be able to get up to the top of the house. You'll notice that we do not have any events set up for the contingent of touching the yin-yang, so we will try and take care of that. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to go back into my storyboard editor up here. I'm going to click the next number to create a new frame. I'm going to call this frame Win. Clicking the number by the frame to take me into it, I'm going to now click on Win under the Workspace toolbar. Going into my properties, I'm going to change the color to something that seems appropriate. Now I'm going to right-click and insert object. I think I'm going to insert a text object. I'm going to insert a text string. I'm going to type in UN and set my font. So now, this is a little too small for me, so I'm going to go back into my Properties menu. I'm going to go into the text options, click on the name of the font up here at the top to bring up the font menu. I'm just going to use the preset size of 72, and I'm going to use the font styling of bold oblique. It seems to have disappeared, but in reality the font is just too big for this small box to contain. So we're going to diagonally increase the size of the box until we see those letters popping up. And try and center it somewhere in the frame. We now have a win screen. Going back into the storyboard editor or double-clicking on the level 1 in the workspace toolbar, we're going to go back to level 1. Now, we need to create a condition by which when you touch this, you are sent to the winning screen. For that, we're going to go back into our event editor. We're going to create a new condition. We're going to create an event between our character and the object. However, you can see that this object does not exist here. That is because if you go back into the frame editor and you click on this, you can see it has an obstacle type. This is the indication to let you know that this is a backdrop object. You cannot set specific events with this object. So, to create what's called an active object that has its own characteristics and properties that you can access from within the event editor, you're going to select it, right-click, and you are going to say Create Active Object. This will bring up a cursor where you can paste it wherever you wish. Just so I don't get confused, I'm going to delete the original object. That leaves us with just our object that has active as its name. It's not very descriptive, so I'd like to change that. Coming over here into the workspace toolbar, I'm going to click once, wait for a second, click twice to be able to edit the actual title. Now I'm going to have this title be Yin Yang, keep it simple. Now, going back into the event editor, I'm going to create a new condition. I'm going to say when our character, stopped with sword, collides with another object, the yin yang, okay. In plain English, when there is a collision between our character and the yin yang, we're going to go under the horse head on the chessboard icon. Make sure you're on the correct row, right-click, and we're going to say jump to frame. We're going to select the frame that we want to load at the point that we have this condition fulfilled. In this case, the winning frame. Select OK. And now we're going to try and run this frame. Now you'll notice nothing is happening when I'm colliding with this object. That's because we're running the frame. It is only capable of running that one single frame, so any conditions that relate to another frame or loading another frame will not function correctly. We need to use the icon to the left of it, the Run Application button. And it takes us to the winning frame. Anytime you create a new event or condition, always test it to make sure it works, because if you come up with a bug, you won't otherwise know where the issue arose from. Now, this is technically a game. We have a character, we have a challenge, and we have a goal. But there is no losing condition. In this case, I think I'm going to put in this character. what we're going to do, we're going to place him somewhere along here, using the arrow keys to place him down on the platform so he's not floating. Now, with this character, Black Ninja, selected, we're going to go over to its properties under movement. We would like this character to roam left and right. For that, we're going to go ahead and use a simple path movement. Now, our movement type has been set to path. We're going to edit the movement. We are going to do one line at a time. We are going to set the line from left, and then new line, to right. We are going to make sure that loop the movement is selected. And we're going to make sure that reverse at end is selected. Otherwise, he'll get to the end of the line and he'll just warp back to where he was to begin with. The speed also seems rather high. We're going to lower that down to about 29. Hit OK. Now we're going to try and run the frame. Now, as you can see, we have enemy movement. OK, now we need a lose condition for when the character comes in contact with an enemy. We're going to go back to the storyboard editor, create a new frame, click into that frame. I'm going to select the frame here, make the background a nice, lovely, disturbing shade of red, and we're going to put in a new text object. Insert object string, paragraph 1 text. We're going to say, "You lose." Going into the font options, a nice bold oblique, and 72. I'm going to expand this out until I can see that nice big taunting lose. And I'm going to change the color to something a little more intimidating. Red on red, not eye-searing at all. Now, going back to our original level 1 frame, we're going to go into the event editor. New condition. When our character collides with another object, Black Ninja, okay? Collision between our character and Black Ninja. Under storyboard controls, right-click, jump to frame, frame 3, you lose, okay. Now, if we run application and we collide with this character, it brings us to a losing frame. There's a lot more things that we can do to this game, but for now, this looks like a pretty good start. So let's take a break for now.